Hey there, I'm Michael Bungay Stanier from Box of Crayons. I am also author of The Coaching Habit. Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead forever. A book that has surpassed my expectations 1,000-fold. It's sold 250,000 copies. It's hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller. It's been the #1 coaching book since it got launched. But look, I'm about to ask a shameless favor of you. It's to nominate me for the Thinkers50 award. And I'll explain why in just a minute. But before I do that, let me say this. I'm a writer for sure, but I am above all a reader. I love to read. And most books that I get them, I read them, I think that's pretty good, but I'll pass them on. I've only got so much bookshelf space in my house, in my office, and I'm only going to keep the ones that matter the most to me. So I went up and just for this video, went and grabbed a bunch of books. It's here, part on this stranger's car, so I hope I don't set off an alarm. Let me show you some of the people who are on my list. Seth Godin, marketer, provocateur. I love his thinking about what difference means. That's what The Heart of the Purple Cow is about. Charles Duhigg, his book on habit really kicked off this whole interest in habits being the building blocks of personal change. Big influence on my book, The Coaching Habit, of course. Peter Block, one of my intellectual heroes. He once wrote a review for one of my very first books. He said, coaching is not a profession, but a way of being with each other. That is, in a sense, what I stand for in the world now, so thank you, Peter. Kevin Kelly, he's just a technologist and a futurist, and this book will blow your mind as to where technology is taking us. Edgar Schein, right up there with Peter Block in terms of a man that's really influenced my thinking. His work on corporate culture, but also on how to help people, is absolutely profound. Meg Wheatley, when I first read this book, The Leadership and the New Science, it blew my mind. It was my first introduction to the sense of complexity, and now I understand that any robust sense of organization and leadership has to tap into what complexity is. Marshall Goldsmith, my friend and mentor, this is a book that's influenced millions of people. Dan Pink, his book on drive, speaking of motivation, this is the book for motivation. Roger Martin, fellow Canadian, fellow Torontonian, so that's awesome. Best book on strategy that I know. And let me wrap it up with Liz Wiseman's book, Multipliers, How Great Leaders Influence Others to Be Great. So, interesting bunch of books. What do they all have in common? Well, what they have all in common is that all of their authors have been recognized by the Thinkers50 award. So there you go, my heroes, the Thinkers50 award. I have wanted for years to potentially be nominated, perhaps receive that award, but it's actually only now that I think perhaps I've got a shot at it. With the work of The Coaching Habit, knowing that it's had such a big impact already, I'm thinking maybe I could actually wave my hand up and say, perhaps me. So here's my request, my shameless request. If you're so moved, I would love and appreciate your nomination for the Thinkers50 award. There's a way of doing that in the form underneath. But let me just add one other thing. One other thing that a lot of those book authors have in common is that, like me, they're tall, straight, white men. It is one of the curses of management thinking is the lack of diversity in it. They're brilliant books, but there is that lack of diversity. So if not me, then perhaps somebody else who brings a diversity of thought, a diversity of perspective, a diversity of experience. Me, somebody else, in some ways it doesn't really matter, but what would be wonderful if you took the time to nominate your favorite management thinker for the Thinkers50 award. I know they would appreciate your support.